Hi, my name is Ann Kent. I'm a registered dietitian nutritionist and the owner of Peas and Happiness. Today we're continuing to talk about fall and winter vegetables with acorn squash as our star today. So you might notice that this acorn squash looks a little bit different than some of the other ones, and you can tell that it's starting to turn a little bit orange, and that's because it is continuing to ripen. So one of the benefits of winter squash is that they last for months and months in a cool, dry place. But they do continue to ripen, and so if you leave them too long, they can spoil. So the reason why I'm going to go ahead and make this is because it's starting to get just a little bit soft, and normally winter squash are pretty hard, and you can start to see that there are some little spots here that I want to watch. So I'm going to go ahead and cut him up and make him into one of my favorite winter and fall dishes. We actually like to use this for our Thanksgiving dinner. If you are in need of some other Thanksgiving recipes, I'm going to drop the link for this dish below. It's called Nuts and Bolts Acorn Squash because we stuff it with dried fruits and nuts. So it's a really tasty, sweet dish, a sweet way to make this acorn squash. So when you prepare this, the first thing we're going to do is cut it in half lengthwise. And this is pretty soft. Sometimes the fresher squash are a little bit more tough, but this one is cutting apart nicely. And now you can see all of the delicious seeds in here. And I've mentioned this before that acorn squash is one of our favorite types of seeds to roast. The texture is really nice. They're not too tough, but they do have some substance to them. And there's also a lot of seeds in this little squash. So I'm using a spoon, and I am using a little bit of pressure to scoop out these seeds, and then I'm just going to set those aside so that I can separate them from some of those stringy innards later, and I will roast those seeds. So that is half of it. So once that is all scooped out, now you can stuff it with some any kind of dried fruit. In the recipe it calls for dried apricots and raisins, but you could also use dried cranberries. And then we'll chop up some nuts, stuff those in here as well, and then you'll fill the cavity full of orange juice. And it does take a while to bake, so there's two ways you can do this. You can either bake it in the oven at 350 for about 90 minutes, or if you're running low on oven space, you can also cook this in the slow cooker for several hours, which is a really nice way to get this done on Thanksgiving so that you can prep it ahead of time, and then it's ready to go at mealtime. So once it's done cooking, you'll know that it's done because you can insert a fork and it'll be very, very soft. And then you'll just take your spoon, pour out the contents of the cavity, and then just scrape that flesh and remove that as well. Stir that all up, and you can either serve it hot right out of the oven, or I really like it cold as well. So once you have leftovers, put them in an airtight container. You can store it for several days, and it's a really nice, sweet side dish or even a dessert if you don't mind something just a little bit more tart and not overly sweet. So this is, again, one of my favorite ways to cook acorn squash. If you are looking for some other Thanksgiving recipes, now is the time to try a free trial of the Peas and Hoppy Meal Guides. This Thursday, I have a full Thanksgiving dinner menu coming out, so it includes this recipe, also a recipe for turkey, some cauliflower mash, and homemade gravy. So to give you just a little bit of other options besides some of the traditional sides, which I assume everybody has their favorite recipes for already, but just to introduce a few more veggies for you. So if you have any other questions or want to see other demonstrations, drop a comment with what you'd like to see. Otherwise, I look forward to seeing you next week for more seasonal produce. Thanks everybody, take care.